I think intentions are one of my favorite subject matters because they are so powerful and I have experienced their magic before. They can be so straightforward and seem so practical, but they have the power to transform our inner worlds and therefore the experience we have and the things that show up in our outer worlds. I've actually joked that my life has become one giant ritual because I am intentional about everything I do. And at this point, it's not really even conscious. It's just sort of like muscle memory. It's the way that I move, but it has taken time. And I'm going to tell you that I feel like my life is so much better and so many categories of my life are better because I started to look at intentionality as a lifestyle because I understood the importance of it. So I just want to share my approach to it and some tips that you can take to build your own intentionality practice. I believe that everything that we say and do sends a message to ourselves and the universe. And intentionality is what separates whether we're conscious of the messages we're sending or not, whether they're on purpose or by accident. And because we are always manifesting or creating via our words, thoughts, and actions, it's important to get clear about what we desire in terms of the experience we want to have, the way that we want to feel, so that we can say so and start to create from that place. Intentions are essentially just giving your energy a direction to go because it's going to go somewhere. You are pointing your energy at something. This is about making sure that it's pointed in the direction that grows what you actually want to have more of as opposed to what you would like to have less of. There are tons of things that we just do and say that we don't even consider. We don't even think about where it came from or what is communicating that we're giving it our focus. It's just the way that we move because intentionality is not something that has always been taught to us. But what we have been taught is about goals. Goals and intentions can go hand in hand, but they are not the same. And it's important for us to understand that because what a lot of us are predisposed to do when we recognize something is unsatisfactory to us is to set a goal. But sometimes what we really need is to set the intention, or at least to understand the intention behind said goal so we understand the why behind it. The goal is typically the what. What do we think is going to provide us with the satisfaction or the experience or feeling that we want? And the intention is really the how and the why. And that's interesting because I find intentions to be really magical because you don't have to know a whole lot in order for them to be powerful and to still work. So what I mean is, let's say that you recognize that your working life is unsatisfactory. All you need to know that is what you think is not working. I'm really exhausted. Everything feels really hard and out of alignment. So what I really want is ease and joy and aligned work experience. You don't have to know what that would look like in order for you to set the intention for you to get the experience you want. So one might say, I want a new job. That may not necessarily be the answer, and it doesn't leave that opening and that opportunity for that this or something better that we talk about in manifestation to show up when we get too specific. But what we do know is that we want aligned ease in our work life. And so that's what we ask spirit for. And the reality is what could show up is a restructuring of the current work that you do in that position that you don't have to move. It could be as simple as a new supervisor taking the workload off of you, right? But if you are only focused on the goal and you haven't thought about, well, actually what I want is this experience and it doesn't have to look like what I thought it would look like, you create more opportunities for you to gain that satisfaction and fulfillment in ways that you never even thought about. Intentions are energy-based, whereas goals are typically more outcome-based. Goals are centered more on what you want to achieve, whereas intentions are more about how you want to feel and move. And intentions are typically tied to something external, whereas intentions are internal. And let me also say, goals are also very important and they're very valuable. So this is not an either or thing. This is a both and thing. So when I look at how this intentional living journey started for me and how it's developed and what I suggest to other people when they're getting started is to think about big picture, general life experience intentions. I think typically people start their intentional living journey as a response to some kind of awareness, an awareness of a dissatisfaction. So sometimes it's a trigger in a certain area of your life, and other times it's just a general dissatisfaction with what kind of life you're living and the experience you're having in it. And so that's where you start to think about what kind of a life do I want to have? What kind of an experience do I want to have generally or in this one area if that's coming up really strong? I will say that if you look at one area, it will typically expand to other areas of your life because I believe that if you do it one place, you probably do it someplace else. Asking ourselves questions is a really good way for us to gauge exactly what kind of intention we want to set, right? And some of those questions are starting with what you're experiencing now. How are you feeling? What feels heavy? What is something that you're really longing for? You can journal it or you can just talk it out loud, do a voice recording to help you answer those questions. Next, what kind of direction do you want to go in once you recognize how you're feeling and what feels imbalanced? What's something that you want more of? What's something you want less of? That's another way to help narrow down the intention of the experience you want to feel. Sometimes you just know, I feel exhausted. So I want a life that's more restful and more full of ease. Now, listen, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be poetic. It don't even have to be a big, serious thing. It just has to be authentically what you desire to experience. And in order to anchor it, you can write it down somewhere. It could be on a piece of paper in a notebook. It could be on a sticky note that you put on your mirror. You can just say it out loud. You can say it out loud and record it or not record it. It just needs to be whatever works for you to, I guess, anchor it. Because that's like saying to yourself and everything around you that you mean it. And that is really powerful. And that is actually the seed planting in and of itself. And now what I want to say is, yes, that is the seed planting, but I want to talk about the watering. Because another thing that I have found is that when we do talk about intentions, sometimes only the magical, it kind of all comes together part of it is discussed. And that is absolutely true. But one thing that comes with the planting of the intention is clarity. Most often, that clarity is how to support that intention, how to actually move towards it. The epiphanies that come are insane. It comes out of nowhere. Sometimes I feel like there's this idea that you have to know exactly how to support your intention right off, but like, how can I know that? And I don't think that's true. In my experience, that information presents itself when you're ready for it. Once you start speaking like you mean it, the universe starts speaking back and it's very fast. Before we talk more about that clarity piece, I just want to give some examples of what real life big picture intentions can sound like. I want to experience love in all that I do. I want to treat myself like someone I love. I want to be receptive to love without overthinking. I want to release urgency and move in ease. I want to experience a life of ease. I want to experience a life of joy, right? Those are good because that could look so many different ways. It's not oversimplifying it for the sake of making sure I'm specific enough. I am telling you, if you set the intention that I want more joy, what you know to be joy will become very clear to you. And the path to getting that will open up. I want to talk about what I call the answer to the intention setting. And it's essentially when you have decided. You ever heard that saying, you'll be surprised at how quickly the universe moves once you decide? That is not a lie. And so once you have decided, you will start getting a response. And it could be via an instruction. It could be via clarity of a different sort. It could be via redirection, right? And sometimes the answer is the thing that you ask for. It's the gift. A lot of times it's in pieces and in steps, but you see it coming together. An example of that is not too long ago, I ended a long hermit period, which is essentially you are with yourself to learn and grow and accomplish, but it's not a whole lot of interaction with other people. It's intentional. It's not escapism. It's intentional, right? However, it became clear that it was time to walk out of that hermit mode. And I was realizing like, ooh, so the friendships that I separated from, several of them I'm not going to be connecting with. I really want to call in new, more aligned friendships that are aligned in these specific ways. And so it took me a while to get comfortable with saying that because I was like, I don't want to deal with none of the foolishness that comes with it. And so when I finally was okay with saying yes, bring in the people, I started getting responses from people that I hadn't connected with in a while. Nothing happened, just life was life and for the both of us. And those connections were really fulfilling. It was clear that we had both been growing in directions that seemed to be compatible, right? People that I had been hanging out on the periphery, we started hanging out more closely and we become closer, and it's been really helpful. And I'm getting what I asked for in a way that I didn't expect. And I think if I would have set the goal to go out and meet a bunch of new people, which new people are not bad, if I would have set the goal to meet a bunch of new people or be outside and all of that, because that's what I thought would get the experience I wanted, I think I would have had a different outcome. And doing it that way was essentially saying, okay, this is what I want. Now, universe, do your thing. What I'm supposed to do will show up. And then that's where the watering of the intentions comes up. Because if these people are calling me to hang out and I'm not answering the phone or I'm refusing to be social myself and the gift is coming up, I'm not following the clarity and the instruction that's coming after I set the intention. And so then what's the point, girl? So another answer to planting the seed of intention is more clarity. And I kind of touched on it there, but it is clarity in the sense of if you say you want more joy, here's what that really means. Here's another word that actually points it out a little more clearer. Oh, that's what I want. This, I can move in the direction of this. So maybe it's not just joy. I want more laughter, which means I want to be in the spaces with people who make me laugh in a healthy way, right? I can't be in a constant state of stress because people who are stressed don't laugh all the time, right? When you're in that state of stress, that's another piece of clarity that comes as an answer to planting the seed of intention. Sometimes the answer you get back to planting that seed of intentionality is that redirection. So an example of that could be maybe you set the intention that you wanted to do more fulfilling, aligned work. Like you want your work or your business, the way you make money to be aligned to something that feels more like a soul purpose. And maybe the response that you get back is the clarity that that's not actually what you want at this time. You actually just want to do the soul aligned work, but not as a career or a business. You just want more outlets and opportunities to do it, but you don't want it attached to your money. That's still a response that may not have come had you not set the intention and moved in the direction of it. And so then you plant a new seed of intention and you begin to water it once the clarity on how to do that, the instructions on how to do that come through. And so I do want to talk about the pivot that comes with intentions. There was absolutely a time in my life where I had become very clear about how powerful intentions were, how important they were, and how quickly they changed things. And it scared me. I didn't have what I believed was the amount of clarity that was needed to set an intention. And I started to feel like if I say I want the wrong thing and I receive it, everything is going to blow up. And so I just didn't set any intention. I cannot tell you the specifics about what happened during that time in my life, but I can absolutely tell you that I was not happy. And that fear didn't go anywhere. It was as if I thought that if I was not 100% clear, I would blow my life up. And then over time, life showed me you absolutely can pivot. And if what you are growing is not what you truly want, you are paying attention and you can redirect. But you are robbing yourself of a life experience and the lessons and the joy that life has to offer you by not asking for anything at all. And so I'm telling you, don't do what I did. Don't overthink it. Don't freak yourself out. Look at it as an important but light, malleable thing. And it'll become easier once you start paying attention to how quickly you get a response to your intentions. And you'll know, well, if it responded that quickly to that intention, if I point my energy in another direction, I will get a response just as quickly, and there's nothing to be scared of. And even if there's not a fear of doing it wrong, There may be some intimidation about starting because you're not sure if you can do it right. Not in the sense that you would ruin something, but what's the point? Don't let that stop you. This is a launching pad. It's an incredible foundation to any work around manifestation, any work around self-concept, any work around mindfulness, that intentionality, and just starting to be conscious of the decisions you're making and why you're making them and what purpose they serve. Chef's kiss. And I also want to say, if you happen to be in a place where you can't even think big picture, because I've been there too, when we talk about, I can't even think about what I want for my life. I just have to think day to day. Start there. There was absolutely a time in my life where my intention was just to be able to be present in the moment. There was another time in my life where my intention was for God and my ancestors to show me that they love me in whatever way they can. How many ways can I see that? I needed that. And I'm going to tell you, there were so many little things that happened and like uncanny things that happened that proved that to me, which in turn helped build my confidence in that connection, which just built my confidence in just my life and my gifts overall. So start where you need to start. Sometimes it's as small as I just want to see myself. I want to see the beauty in myself. I want to see my gifts. I want to see my strengths. I want to see why I'm worthy. And those sorts of things will show up to show you. So after we have decided and set those intentions and we've planted that seed, the way that we water it is through our daily activities. There are so many areas of our lives that are just on a loop, that we just kind of do out of muscle memory, the way we've always done it. And we've never stopped to think about, what is this in support of? Is this in support of what I say I want for my life, the kind of experience I want to have? Or is it supporting something that's misaligned with that? So I want to go through some of the areas where that might show up, because intentionality will disrupt that muscle memory. Once we're more clear about what our energy should be working towards, it becomes more important and a little bit more easy for us to stop those energy leaks where we're sending energy to the things that don't serve us, because now we at least know what we're pointing it towards. So essentially, we ask ourselves, what am I really trying to do here? That's the question. In the morning, with our morning routine, what am I really trying to do here? In our social time, in our free time, what am I trying to do here? And then eventually we get used to that intentionality, and then that becomes the new muscle memory. And then we in there. Morning routines, we've mentioned it before. I probably mention it in most things because it is so important. It is a way that we set the tone for the day. My morning routine includes setting an intention for the day that supports the big picture intention. What are we doing first thing in the morning? Are we getting straight into scrolling? And I'm not the kind of girl that tells you what is universally good or universally bad, but I will say that if you have set the intention to live a more peaceful life and scrolling gives you anxiety, then it's probably not serving your big picture intention. And then it's up to you to decide what that does serve and what might be better for your big picture intention. Also, how we interact in our social spaces. If we say that we're calling in aligned, loving, reciprocal friendships, but we rushed to text back and continue to build relationship where we know that that's not the case, what intention are we serving? Because it's not the one of building reciprocal community. And so what can we do instead? And that's for you to answer, right? Also, things like rest. If our intention is to get more rest and to be kinder to our bodies, but we keep jam-packing our schedule in a way that's unnecessary and it doesn't block out any rest, does that support you having a more restful life? Just saying. These actions are not random. They either reinforce the bigger picture intention you've set, or they chip away at it. It's supporting some intention, but is it the one that you mindfully created? I think it's helpful to think of intentionality like layering. And when I think of layering, I always think of a Brandy song because she stacks her vocals, and that's part of what makes it magical. And so every small act that you do on purpose becomes a part of the larger rhythm of your life. And if you stack them correctly, you get a beautiful song like Brandy. And of course, it's life. So it's important to note that we can't control every single step, but we do have more control over how we move through it. And that's what we're responsible for. Those everyday decisions that we make to support the intentions that we set are really important, and they are the backbone to those changes. However, I am absolutely someone who believes that important things deserve special moments, and I love ceremony. Let's make it a thing if we're going to do it. And so here are some ways that you can make setting your intentions feel ceremonial and very special if you're somebody like me who wants to do that. One way that many of us do it is a vision board. Focus on the feelings you want to feel, not necessarily the things you want to have, and that can absolutely support setting intentions. Just simply writing your intention down. I mentioned it before, but you can make it very special. You can write it on a special paper or with a special pen. You can have it framed. I've done that before. I actually have something on my bedroom wall that actually it says today's intention, and I write it in a dry erase. It's in a really pretty frame. You can do something like that. You can say it in a voice note, like on your phone, and save it so that you can play it back every so often. And I think that that can be really helpful because hearing it in your voice, I think that rewires something. I'm not sure, but I think there might be science behind it, but don't quote me. You can also create a playlist that supports the energy that you want to embody. That is going to be extra helpful when the intentions you're setting are really based on self-concept and your relationship with yourself. But even the things that you want to call in, what music are you listening to that supports it? The most important thing is to make it your own and to do what feels special and impactful to you, because that will absolutely support you on this journey. I've said this a couple times. I'm going to say it again because it is so important. Not every intention has to be super deep. It doesn't need to be poetic, and it doesn't need to have so much clarity around it. Some days the intention might be some form of survival or ease or presence, and that's okay. Sometimes the intention is not spoken, it's just a thought. Sometimes a quiet intention is what is needed, but it's still a real one, right? You don't have to share it with anybody else. You don't need to post it, and you don't need to justify it. That's between you and yourself. And it speaks to the needs that you have and the desires that you have. And that's just not really anybody else's business. I really want to ask you not to turn intentionality into some kind of a boot camp. Y'all know I hate a self-improvement boot camp. Don't start being aggressive with yourself or beating yourself up because you're not doing it right. This is a journey. It has an ebb and flow. What I'm seeing is like water moving down a stream. Be easy with yourself. That will support reaping the benefits of your intention way more than being tough on yourself ever would. I have a few questions and thoughts to leave you with. The first is, if your life was exactly how you wanted it to be, what would it feel like? What kind of experience would you have? And also, what is one thing that you can do on purpose? What's one thing you can be more intentional about today? So could it be your evening routine? Could it be the music you play first thing in the morning? Just one thing you can change to be intentional and to support the big picture. Before we leave, I'm going to pull this week's affirmation from Unapologetic Affirmations. Oh, wow. And this week is I deserve. And you're supposed to finish the sentence. I feel like that's so perfect. Listen, I love you. Thank you for being here. If you don't already, you can follow me on Instagram at Seen with Serena, on TikTok at Serena Kumara, and on YouTube at Serena Kumara. Like, share, subscribe. Love you.